Hello friends, and welcome to this walkthrough of the Synapse Portal, the secure research environment brought to you by bladestack-io. My name is Kiefer, I'm the head of engineering here at Bladestack, and it is my pleasure to walk you through the portal. We'll start with a walkthrough of the features available to the administrator, what the end user experience will look like, and some basic workflows you'd expect to achieve as an administrator leveraging the solution. So with that, let's light this candle. What you see when you first log into the Synapse Portal is the main dashboard. This dashboard gives a very high-level overview of the resource distribution in the environment as designated by the tagging of those resources. In this case, we have the tag key of project and 2 project names associated with it, which shows a quick breakdown of each project's usage. This is a simple, qualitative view meant to give quick insight into the activity of each project. From here, to drill down further into the specifics of those resources, we can navigate to the cost summary page where we have the option to filter those resources by service, tag, or even region, and see the expenditure on a more granular level. Each of these filters can be further refined by a specific service or tag as desired. For example, we could see the full expenditure for the resources that are tagged with the key of project, and by default, we see a monthly cost and usage, but we can further refine that to daily to see the day-to-day trends for those resources. The look back for this is available for up to 13 months here on the dashboard, but even further back upon request. Now let's have a look at the service catalog. As you can see, we have some upcoming service offerings, but for now we'll focus on AWS's Research Engineering Studio. There are 2 options available. The first is that the admin can drill down into the service offering for additional details about the service. The second option would be if the admin is already aware of the service that they want, they can skip over that additional information and go straight to the configuration by selecting the Get Started button. For our example admin, they want to know more about this service. So if we click on the View Details here, it'll take us to the service overview of what is available when leveraging the Research Engineering Studio. If we take a quick look at the top here, we'll see a tab for the AWS-centric documentation that is specific to this service, which the admin can leverage should they deem it necessary. We also see the tab for configuration, which is how the admin will actually instantiate and leverage the service, but we'll come back to that shortly. In the main section, we get an overview of the service, some use case examples, and the major key features. If we scroll down just a bit further, we can see the pricing for this service as provided by Bladestack. In this example, Research Engineering Studio is a pass-through model, and that is denoted as such here with some additional detail about what resources would incur costs. And finally, we have a simplified look at the architecture that backs the service. At this juncture, the admin can decide to use this service, or return to the service catalog page to choose a different one. We will assume our admin in this example elects to use Research Engineering Studio, so they would then proceed to the Configuration tab, which we had mentioned previously. This will direct them to the configuration page where they can add users and groups, which is what provisions the service. Whether provisioning a research admin or a member of the research group, the process is effectively the same. The admin would enter the information of the user, filling out all of the fields, and assign the user to a group depending on their product affiliation and required permission set. A group configuration guide is shown to the side and consists of 3 high-level categorizations, each with its own distinct purpose. All users are required to be added to the RES group in order to leverage the service. Adding a user to this group is what provisions access to the RES web portal. For those who require administrative permissions in the Research Engineering Studio, they would be added to the RES Administrators group. This group provides permissions for administering Research Engineering Studio as a service at the research group level, meaning they can allocate compute and storage resources to the rest of the research team. And finally, the groups pertain to each individual project. These project groups are created here under the Research Group dropdown and are available to the RES administrator in the RES web portal once created. At the bottom of the configuration page, we have the list of users and their associated groups currently provisioned in the environment. Here we have the user B. Wilson, who is an RES administrator and is assigned to both the Project 1 and Lab Group 1 groups, as they are administering the compute and storage resources for those projects. Should we wish to change those groups, we simply go over here to Manage Groups, and we see here on the modal that comes up, we have the option to assign them to a different group. In this case, let's go ahead and add Wilson to Project Group 2, save our changes, and we'll see that Project 2 is now going to reflect here in the groups assigned to B. Wilson. But let's go ahead and add a brand new user. When a new user is added to the Synapse Portal, in this case specifically to Research Engineering Studio service, they'll be automatically sent an email by Okta with a link to access their new account and researcher dashboard with Okta, and will be able to access the services to which they've been assigned. As discussed before, let's fill out the fields to add the new researcher, and we'll go with the classic John Smith. So go with John Smith. We'll use J. Smith as the username, and of course, email. And for their research groups, we'll go ahead and add them to the required RES group, as well as let's create them a new group, and we'll call this group, Portal Group 1. We'll add the group. And now that it's added, we'll see it there. Add the researcher. And as you can see, the user has appeared down on the users list with their associated groups. From here, we will reset their password, as this is what activates the user, and we'll provide them with a temporary password which they can change once they log into the environment. So we'll add that new password. As you can see, we have the password requirement parameters here to check. We've checked all those. We'll hit reset the password. And other than a confirmation that we've tried to set a password, we won't see any other acknowledgement here on the screen. That will happen all in the background. It is worth noting that there is a 1-hour synchronization time for the back end of the service, meaning that adding a user or changing group affiliation can take up to 1 hour to fully reflect in the environment. With our new user provision, that ends the main workflow for the admin for initial setup. Now, let's jump over to the Okta customer portal and see what the resulting workflow looks like for the researcher. All right, we're logged into Okta as our Bali Wilson user, as you can see up here in the upper right corner. And what you will also notice is that we have a tile for Research Engineering Studio available to Bali. As we mentioned previously, this tile will be automatically added to the user dashboard here when the user is added to that RES group. And the same is true for any other service that the user is assigned to. We can then click on this tile and it will take us to the Research Engineering Studio dashboard where, since Bali is an admin user, we will get the full suite of administrative privileges. Here on the Research Engineering Studio dashboard, you can see we have a slew of options available on the left-hand side. For example, we can see our users and groups, though notably this is a read-only view. We cannot actually manipulate any users or groups from this console. But what the research admin can do is create a project for those users and groups. Projects allow for the allocation of compute and storage resources to the members associated with them. So let's have a look at one of our projects. We'll look at Project 1. And if we see down at the bottom for the groups, we'll see that Portal Group 1 has been assigned to this project. You'll note that we assigned Portal Group 1 to our user John Smith earlier. If we go over to the software stacks and choose RHEL 9, we'll see that we have assigned that to the same project. We'll go into the edit option here, and we'll see that it's assigned to Project 1. We also have the option to onboard shared file systems as 3 buckets. We can see the dashboard of the currently deployed desktops in the environment. And finally, we can launch a desktop as our own as the admin user if desired, which here you can see we have a Windows desktop up and running and ready for use. Now this, again, to reiterate, is the admin view. So let's go ahead and have a look at John Smith and see what their dashboard looks like. Now we're on John Smith's Okta dashboard, and as you can see, it looks remarkably similar to our Bali Wilson dashboard. We'll see the same tile for Research Engineering Studio, so let's click on that. Now you will notice immediately that there are far fewer options available to the typical user. John, in this case, can only see the projects they're assigned to, and if we look at the desktops, they'll only have the ability to launch the desktops based on what's been allocated to them in the project. So let's go through an example of provisioning one of these new desktops. We'll click on Launch New Virtual Desktop. We'll leave the session name, choose the project that we're assigned to. In this case, again, we only have the singular option, which is Project 1. And now when we go to choose an operating system, we'll only be able to choose the ones assigned to the project. For example, here we have Amazon Linux 2 selected. If we look at the software stack for availability, we'll see that we don't have any options. Instead, let's go ahead and choose that RHEL 9 stack that we had assigned to the project earlier, and we'll see that indeed we do have the option to choose RHEL 9 as our software. We will then choose a desktop compute size. We'll go for something small just for an example, and leave the storage side. It should populate at the minimum value required, and hit submit. And this will begin the provisioning. It'll even tell you here, again, see my desktop 2 is provisioning. And once provisioning has been completed, your new desktop is ready to use. That was a quick walkthrough of a typical workflow for administrators and users of the Synapse Portal and AWS Research Engineering Studio. If you would like to find out more about Synapse Portal, please visit synapseportal.io. And if you'd like to get in touch with our BladeStack team, please visit us at bladestack.io. Thank you for joining me. Have a nice day.